Welcome back to Off Script, the podcast where we go beyond the scenes, beyond the industry jargon, and straight into the raw, unfiltered stories of filmmaking. I'm Fallon Goodson, joined by my incredible co-host, Sky Lopez. In this episode, I sit down with Laura Duval. We talk about everything from her early creative influences to teaching at Tulane and championing stories that center humanity. Laura shares how she leads with empathy both on and off set. We talk about her process, her passion for shaping the next generation of filmmakers, and the power of storytelling to reflect and reimagine our world. On today's episode, we are joined by the brilliant Laura Duval. She's a writer, a director, an educator. I often refer to her as a Swiss Army knife. She does it all. So there's so much you're going to enjoy in this episode. And let's go off script. Laura, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Just start off. What first pulled you into storytelling, writing, directing? Which thing pulled you in first?
Honestly, art in a very unexpected way. I had done theater and all that kind of stuff growing up through high school, through middle school, things like that. But I didn't really get involved in the film industry until I actually came down to New Orleans to work on my master's of political science. And I came down here and I got involved in Filmmakers for fun. At that point in time, I had graduated with my double bachelor's in fine art and political science. And I started doing student films, doing art department, everything from costuming and makeup to props to production design. And it just kind of spiraled.
Yeah, I think I've referred to you before as a Swiss Army knife. I wish I was a little bit more Swiss Army knife, I'm not going to lie.
Well, it can get you into trouble sometimes because it sometimes means that you're asked to wear a few too many hats.
How do you know when to close the Swiss Army knife? Are there times where you just feel like, okay, I've hit my capacity?
Yeah, I try to limit myself to say one or two jobs on a project. It doesn't matter what it is. I try not to go overboard, especially if I'm a department head. I don't want to wear multiple hats. It doesn't matter how many people I have working with me. It's just, you can't devote all your creative energy towards multiple directions. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
I try to just stick with one thing on any particular project, and I pick that, and that's where all my focus goes.
It's so true. It's so tempting when you're a creative to want to just do a little bit of everything.
It really is.
There's so much access to create these days. It's almost overwhelming because we have more options.
And there's so many opportunities. And nowadays you can learn how to do almost anything online. It used to be you had to go to school. So when I went to school, I learned how to paint, how to sculpt, how to weld, woodworking, things I didn't think I can go out and just learn. And now we have YouTube videos that teach everybody how to do that. But it makes it really open for anybody to learn anything they want to learn.
Yeah, this is true. So you have a really interesting heritage, Polish, French, Irish, Cherokee. How did that shape your creative lens?
So it made me realize that everybody looked at something from a very different perspective, and those backgrounds shaped how you understood what you saw. My mom's side is very Polish and very traditionally Polish, and so they have certain things that they do, certain things they cook at certain times. And so they view things totally different, say my dad's side, which is where we got the Cherokee, the Irish, and the French. And even that gets complicated. um, so like I learned a lot of storytelling, honestly, from my uncle on that side. He owned and ran a game store for so many years. He's got the longest running D&D campaign of anyone I know. It's been like over 40 years. And I learned storytelling through gaming. And through my dad's storytelling. He would tell me stories at night about anything from French pirates to the Native American history that he would never admit to. I had to find out in a very weird way. So, yeah, it's made me more appreciative of understanding that everyone has such a unique place that they're coming from, and understanding those different unique places is a story in and of itself.
Yeah, definitely. It gives you so much more depth as a storyteller. I feel like it Understanding all of those heritages, it makes your work more like impressionism.
But it's very much so. And all of my work normally somehow, I spent a lot of time studying political science. And so a lot of that's theory and understanding how people work together and what influences different things. And so a lot of that in symbolism, a lot of that gets put into my own work using different images or colors to represent different ideas that I'm trying to get across. As an American culture, we view certain colors in a certain way, the same way Japanese or French view those same colors in a completely different way. So it's a really fascinating way to use that for storytelling.
Always learning from you. How did teaching influence you as a storyteller?
It's more like I can't help but want to teach everything that I know because that was how I learned. I had really, really wonderful people that took the time to teach me what they know and teach me all their tricks. And that was in almost every department. I got to learn from Danny Retz. I learned how to edit. And honestly, really how much your camera angles and everything goes into your storytelling and planning for it. I learned how to film stunts from Sean Fairburn, who's a combat veteran and phenomenal, but also how to set up a camera for 3D filming, how to calibrate it, how to see the image without even needing a lens in 3D. I've learned something from everybody I've talked to. One of my dad's mentors, who I'm named after with my middle name, she was a Japanese art professor and she would teach me about Japanese art and the culture. And so I learned a lot about that. And it made me want to pass those same things on to everybody else. I just think about all the things that I got to create. And as I learned, and I get to pass those things on and see everybody else create these really amazing things, which just inspires me more and makes me want to keep doing what I do.
That's beautiful. You have such a giving spirit. New Orleans is so lucky to have someone like you, honestly. So since you've been teaching a lot of the younger, newer generation of filmmakers, what gives you hope about this new generation? What differences do you see with peers right now versus the students you were teaching?
One thing that I love about the students I've been teaching is that there's this enthusiasm and this grit and determination that I haven't seen in a long time. And we'll go through phases of students who are really excited, that love what they're doing, and then we'll go through phases of students that there seems to be like this generation of, maybe, I don't care. But then we're in a generation right now, they're so excited to tell stories and they all have such unique viewpoints and they all come from different backgrounds in different places and they have experienced all different things in their generation, everything from dealing with war to issues with our economy. And they're really great at expressing that, especially since they have access to all these different technological devices and they're all for learning all of it.
Do you feel like there's more freedom in the younger generations that are coming up? There's not as many walls to break down?
So that's kind of actually a mixed bag. Like generations before mine, a lot of walls. There's a lot of social constructs, stuff like that. There's not as many in my generation and those slightly below mine. But I've noticed in this modern generation, there's this facade that everyone has to put up. They have to meet those specific standards. And my generation was very much I don't care what you're doing. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't care what you say. I'm going to think my own thing. And I'm going to express that. And the newer generations, they pick and choose and say, I need to present myself a certain way. So I lurk a certain way so that I will get followers or whatever else. And I feel like that takes away from their ability to really share who they are. But that's just, my personal viewpoint of what's going on.
I always think the younger kids, oh, they have so much more freedom because there's so much more acceptance now. But yeah, that makes so much sense. Now there's so many platforms and things. And then, yeah, you on this performance almost. So it is harder to sometimes be authentic because you're very influenced by what other people are doing. When you start to work on a project as a director or writer, what are some of the first things you do to step into that role as a creative? What's the difference when you step in as a director, and then what is the difference when you step in as a writer?
So when I'm stepping in as a director, um, to some extent, I'm kind of working as a writer. I'm taking what the writer is telling me and I'm transcoding that into something more visual.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I do the same thing as a writer. I'm taking whatever is inspiring me and sometimes somebody else's story and transcoding it in the way that I want to make sure that I'm representing that story fairly in a way that really represents where that originated from, and I'm sharing it in a way that's fair to everybody involved. My biggest thing normally is I'm a reader. I read about a book a day, and so normally I will start reading books about whatever genre I'm working on, whatever I'm working in. I'll start reading books about it. Normally, I read a lot of fantasy and fiction, so not as much nonfiction, but some, and that'll start getting me into that headspace. I'll do a lot of research. I will look things up, whether if it's something to do with history, I'm going to read all the history books about it and look it up not just online. I have a very large library. So in the history books I have here, I'm going to look up historical films, or if it's a fantasy, I'm going to look up films related to that fantasy. I might look at a bunch of different artwork that it inspires me and helps me get into that mindset. And I'll start creating, I like to call it like a lookbook or a director's book, but basically a book of inspiration where everything I want to kind of create into this world or see in this world, I'm going to start taking pictures and ideas and write that down into a folder so that I can look at it and say, okay, this is where we're going.
Are there any filmmakers that get you pumped up, almost like when someone would put on a playlist?
I do, and I apologize to everyone. I'm so bad with names. It's not even funny. I'm so bad with names. Unless I see you all the time and work with you all the time, I can't remember anybody's names, and I try really hard, but I'm so bad at it. I try. I really do. So the cinematographer for The Revenant, Children of Men, phenomenal cinematographer. I love seeing his work, and I will constantly go back to it, and I like the way that his camera style puts the viewer into as being one of the characters basically. And so I'll review that a lot. But also depends on what style I'm going for. It changes. I worked on a TV series recently as a DP, and I watched so many hours of Bel Air to understand the cinematography because that's what they were looking to represent and to understand even the directing of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because a lot of times in the series you'll have different directors sometimes
Yeah.
even, but you've got the same producers and it's really those directors are carrying the torch of the original concept to kind of make sure they're creating the same thing every episode. And so there's certain things you'll see that really represent the style of that series or that particular project, and pick up on it. And it's fun to kind of incorporate that in your own work.
With TV, there's so many different directors, but you get into a TV show because you like the rhythm, you like the style. It feels almost like a world you're living in for a little while, especially if you're binging it. So when you direct TV, how do you leave your mark while also staying within, the realm of the world that's been established?
So my goal is anytime I work on a project is I want to create something that is going to basically blend in with what everybody else is creating so we can create something that is truly immersive and doesn't feel totally disjointed. I don't want it to feel like there's multiple people working on this. I want to feel like you are visiting the world and this world is just for you. And it is geared just for you, and you would never know that anybody else made it if it wasn't made by you. So my goal really is to make sure that what I do blends in with what everybody else does. I want to try and copy the style. A lot of times, if I'm working with you, I will pick your brain like you wouldn't believe. With our producer and other director, and uh, hey, Chris, I spent so much time talking, and I got called in project at the last minute, but I spent every moment I can talking to our producer director, Chris, to say, okay, who are these characters? What is your understanding? What is it you're trying to get out of them? Where are they trying to go? What is the purpose of each scene? What is the purpose of a particular action? Where is this? What direction is it going in? So I can understand everything surrounding the story so that when I give a direction, I know it's going to fall within this whole world that's already going to be built, that's already been built, that I'm not changing in any way. So hopefully those directions are going to make people feel like they're more part of that world.
Yes, it can be probably even more challenging to come into something that's already been established, I'm sure, and just that delicate balance.
Oh yeah, it very much is. Whereas when I'm doing something that is entirely mine, I don't have to think about,
Yeah.
anybody else's ideas of how it should be directed or anything like that. It's a lot of figuring out, okay, what is the world I want to create when I'm doing my own? When it's somebody else's, okay, what's the world that they created?
Hmm.
Either way, it's a similar process. You're going through and figure out what's this world about? What are everybody's motivations? Where's everyone coming from? What is affecting other things? What are the conflicts? What are the agreements?
Hmm.
Where do all the politics between people go?
Yeah. What kind of characters would you say that you're most drawn to, just in general?
Okay, so wide end of the spectrum. I have a habit of really loving characters that are completely out of the box and do crazy things, and everyone seems to think that they don't make any sense, but everything is actually motivated. But they're very outgoing and energetic and creative and kind of having this something that's really unique. So, of course, one of the most famous ones, Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean, when he plays the pirate there, he's, created this really wonderful character he's got
Yeah.
all these unique things that he does that's that character. He brings that character to life.
Hmm.
But I also like characters that are very subtle, that are the quieter characters that tend to be the geeky, misunderstood characters. I can relate very well to that. Especially characters that have to very subtly show what they're thinking and feeling and sharing those undertones that have a very long and strong backstory. So I guess the biggest thing is characters with a really good backstory.
Whenever you are working with actors, I'm sure it's really easy to tell too if the actor has really developed a big backstory. And I guess it just depends on how you're trained. Like I was trained to really go deep and develop a backstory. When you see an actor and you're like, okay, I think it's not necessarily what's missing what they're doing right now. It's in the prep work potentially. How do
Mhm.
you help guide them to reach back in and get a little bit more depth in that way?
So a lot of times I'll give them a list of questions to answer. And I'll sit down with them and I'll just start asking them, who's your character? What's their name? What's their favorite color?
Mhm.
What do they like to do for fun? Who's their family member? What are they afraid of? All the things you ask people when you're getting to know them.
Yeah.
You want to ask that of your characters. So, who are they? What are they motivated by? Where do they come from? Who's their parents? Who's their best friend? Who's the person they're really envious of? Who's their hero? All the things that you want to basically develop as a person is very much you're creating in that character. And so I want them to know basically who their character is as an entire full person. So I normally send that as homework.
Are you the type of director that do you like to rehearse a lot before?
Do as much as I can. Honestly, rehearsals are probably a little weird at first because I spend a lot of them literally with me just sitting and talking to our actors and asking them about their characters.
Hmm.
And I'll ask them everything and anything about their characters, who their characters are, where they came from, where they're going, things that have nothing to do with even with the story. But I want them to understand their characters. And as they understand their characters and they start to talk with each other about their characters, they start to understand each other.
Hmm.
And the more they're talking about the characters together, the more it becomes almost like we're talking about each other, we're having a family. And the more that it becomes like its own reality, I guess. So by the time we're actually rehearsing, I'm asking them, okay, in this situation, I want you to try and find their biggest secret. Take away what they hold dearest. And they know exactly what that other character holds dearest. And that's what they're going for because we've already had those conversations. They know who their character is.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes actors feel really safe. Speaking of that, when an actor might be having a rough day on set, or they're just not connecting, or maybe something from the outside is affecting them, maybe some bad news came their way and they just don't know how to shut it out. What are some techniques you use to reground an actor on set when it's like, okay, we got to go, we got to do this?
Normally, I try and do something funny. I'm not a very funny person, but I will do something completely and totally ridiculous. Like I'll start doing jumping jacks or singing random songs. I will start jumping up in front of them, going, "Hey!" Anything that's going to get them out of their head.
Well, like being at the pediatrician, basically, when the kid's getting
Yes,
caught.
yes. Yes, basically all my experiences of teaching younger kids definitely comes through right there. It's very much, let's get their attention. It's what's your favorite snack? I might ask them a bunch of questions about something that has nothing to do with the film.
Yeah.
I might tell them to start reciting grocery lists. I might tell them to do something equally weird. Go tell me everything that's read on set. What are even more traditional psychological methods like five things you hear,
Yeah.
you know, your five things you see, four things you hear, three things you smell, two things you taste, and all the way down to literally just grabbing them and going for a run. Or, saying, hey, your character, imagine your character in this place. And I'll give them like a whole world to envision. Describing down to the way maybe it smells like a horse's stall in here
Mm-hmm. So
that's been in the sun all day.
on the other end of the spectrum, what do you do when an actor is more on they're a little bit on the ego side where they're not really listening to what you're saying? How do you work around that?
Everybody's got a way that they work and they have a process. And, I'm not going to tell anyone they don't have the right method or anything like that. And we're going to have different viewpoints, and not all the time they're going to be the same. So a lot of times I'll ask that, okay, let's do it your way. Whatever you want to do it, let's do it your way. Or let's do it the way that I'm suggesting right now. Just give it a shot. And then we're going to do it exactly how you want to do it. And then we've got both. And that way, whatever works out best when the editor gets to it, that's what we'll go with. Because either one of us could be right. Who knows? But let's give both a shot. If they're really stuck in their head about something, or they're too far into their character, again, I might do something ridiculous. I might also pause everything and say, go get coffee. Or, uh, here's a cute stuffed animal, hug it. Whatever ridiculous. I normally have my puppies there quite a bit. And so I'll come bring this one, and she's really good at distracting people.
That's funny.
She's also very content just to sit here like this, so the distraction is mainly visual, but
Mhm. So cute. Well, what has really kept you in this market? Obviously, we have the big, coast to coast film markets, and then we have all these other film markets that have popped up in Georgia and
hmm
in Texas, and we Mississippi, and we have Nevada. Like, what has kept you in Louisiana?
well, I can't even say it's kept me in Louisiana because I travel quite a bit.
Mhm.
I think I've spent more time in Mississippi the last couple of months than I have here. But I mean, what keeps bringing me back here is this is where my family is. This is my
Yeah.
home. All my friends that I would call family that, we've created stories. We grew up creating stories together. We went to school together, or we started in the industry together, in the independent industry together. And we basically become this creative family. And even when we go in different directions, we're all still here, and we're here to come back together and tell these stories. And these are the people that I like working with, because they're all people that I started working with, and they had this enthusiasm that was just catching. They were passionate about it. They loved it. And so when you're on set with other people that just love to do what you're doing, that love to do the art that they're doing, they're really good at whatever they're doing. Whatever they're passionate about, they're really good at it. And I love working with them because
Mhm.
they're there because they're excited about what they're doing. It's not just work for them, it's something they enjoy doing. And that just makes a totally different art piece.
Yeah. What advice do you have for filmmakers that are in markets like this, where, there are more frequent quiet periods, and maybe advice on how to keep momentum in this industry? Because it sounds like, yeah, you do go where the work is sometimes.
Yeah, you do. The biggest thing I could say is just keep doing what you're doing. And when it gets slow, go work on some fun projects, because that's the time to be creative and take chances and do those no budget projects or super low budget projects that you
Mhm.
normally don't have time to do or couldn't do. And just hone your skills, do the things that you wouldn't otherwise get to do, test it out on those smaller sets. And those people you're working with are typically people that are also working in the industry that are going to pull you onto other projects when they see that you're doing something they like.
Yeah, absolutely. What is on your to direct dream list? If you could pick anything at all, no budget limits, no
Oh,
location limits.
okay. So I love fantasy. So anything
Mhm.
fantasy, that's it. Doesn't matter where I'm filming. I'm anywhere in the world. I want to do fantasy and make alternate worlds with dragons and magic and all that kind of stuff. Might have something in the works. We'll
What was the first fantasy film or book or piece of art that really drew you into that genre?
So I was in third grade. I hated reading. I wouldn't read a thing. Didn't want anything to do with books. And Catherine Boone, my dad's art mentor, gave me a book called A Wrinkle in Time. And third grade, I'm reading this book. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a long chapter book. I can't read this. I'm bored out of my mind. And then I started reading it and I did put it down. And then I had a really wonderful teacher at the time that was Miss Neer. And she had a wonderful library and she'd point to books that she thought I would enjoy. And all of a sudden I discovered all these other novels that were fantastic and fun. When I was in high school, there was another writer that had just come out at the time that started writing fantasy that probably one of my favorite authors because I feel like I almost grew up with her, which was Tamara Pierce. She
Mhm.
wrote about all the things that I would dream about or, imagine. My dad was very good at telling stories when I was a kid. When I was going to bed, he would do all these different stories that had to do with, like, he would call Pippo the monkey and all these different stories about this magical castle that would take you to all these different lands. And it just really made me interested in creating a world where you feel like you're somewhere else and experiencing a unique journey.
What's the closest thing to fantasy world do you think is here on Earth? Like maybe a place you visited or even a place in New Orleans?
So I don't feel like you have to go anywhere to find a fantasy world. I mean, I just open up a book and I'm there. Anywhere that I can really get that's somewhere out in the middle of nature, I always feel like I'm somewhere comfortable and I feel like I'm in my own little world.
Hmm.
And so that could be City Park right here in New Orleans. They've got some really amazing walking paths and stuff like that. Or it could be like going to visit with my family in Kauai and we're hiking the Calo Trail or just sitting on one of the beaches or going surfing. So,
You're making me want to sit down and read a book, which is rare for me these days.
well, maybe you're not reading the right books.
I might need a recommended reading list from you.
I can definitely give you that. I can definitely give you that.
I get sucked into these TV show worlds where the binging, when there's like 5 seasons, I just am living in that world.
Well, that's what I love about that's available now is you can watch all these seasons and all these episodes back to
Mhm.
back, and it creates this very vivid real world, and you see how all the puzzle pieces fit together that you wouldn't otherwise see when you're watching it one week at a time.
Are you, when you write, are you a morning writer or a night writer? Maybe a little bit of both. Do you have a time of day that inspires you?
No, actually. I tend to be more awake at night, so I guess naturally I tend to do more work at night. But honestly, normally what inspires me is there's something that just clicks in my mind on whatever I'm doing, whether it's I'm reading a book and something clicks about something else I was working on,
Hmm.
or I'm literally just folding laundry, uh, or doing one of my little miniature like puzzles or something like that.
Yeah, my brain thinks of all these ideas. I'm driving or when I can't sit down, like when I'm not able to actually write things down or talk to anyone is when my brain spins. And I'm like, wait, what?
I think I probably got the most writing done in school, and it wasn't because I was writing what was going on in class.
Yeah.
Because I would be hit with ideas, whether it was related to what we were talking about or something completely different. But it would inspire me and be like, okay, I got to write all these things down and I got to put these ideas together and I got to work all the puzzle pieces together. And then when I have a moment that I can actually sit and be left alone, I'll sit there and like put everything up on a board and draw everything out and start writing things out.
What do you see for the future of the film industry? There's so many things that are shifting right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I'm worried. A lot of our industry has been pushed to other countries
Hmm.
because they offer straight up cash sometimes to go film there. They'll give you part of your budget. So why not? And in the US, there's some states that have tax credits, but it's not quite the same thing. And a lot of things are more expensive here. Even the price of eggs, the price of land, everything. It's not even the people you're hiring, it's the cost of literally the places you're filming at.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm hoping some of the industry comes back. We have a lot of amazing artists here, and it's been really painful to watch some of these artists either move to other countries, go to Australia, go to Canada, or a lot of them just don't work in the industry anymore. They've stopped doing the art they love. Some of them, I know there's a camera operator that is a phenomenal DP, has done a lot of really big things in Kauai, who literally is, making hats out of um, palm trees, which is, don't get me wrong, is actually pretty cool. Sounds
Yeah.
like a lot of fun, but we've lost that talent that they had behind the camera to a totally different art form. And
Yeah.
so it's just, we're losing these people. And the more that the industry disappears, the more we're going to lose. And we don't have those people to teach the next generation. And so it goes back to almost like what happened with Germany with, back in, what was that, World War I, when you have a lot of filmmakers that didn't have like all the people that really were involved in film and knew everything left, and you were left with a couple of people that didn't know much or knew a few things, and so they create a completely different way of filmmaking. So sometimes that's a great thing because you
Yeah.
have a totally new style that gets
A
born.
renaissance.
Yeah. But at the same time, you also lose a lot of those techniques and, I guess, artistic talents that you used to have.
Yeah, it's very true. It's a humbling business to be in because you just never know when you're going to go from being at the top to the bottom, whatever the top is for you.
Yeah.
There's these like surges of success and then there's quiet periods. This industry has been so in the news that people are not just seeing like, the Hollywood fame side of it.
Yeah. Well, people still seem to think like there's these people that make films that make money and do this full time and this isn't a real job. No, this is a lot of work. And not only that, but if you're working in the film industry, you're doing a lot of work that you didn't get paid for to even just do your own normal job.
Mm-hmm.
Things that, like, I put so much time into studying different methods and books and practicing and working out and practicing the camera moves that I do and working on stories and things like that, all outside of even just working on a particular project where I'm getting paid. Because if I don't keep up those skills, you lose them.
Right. Yeah.
And so it means keeping up those skills, especially when it comes to knowing like the mathematics of lighting and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something you can just not practice and go do. It's something you have to practice every day, just like a musician practices,
Yeah.
just like a painter paints. And again, it's really hard to make a living in this industry. And so it makes it hard for anyone to keep doing this job. I know a lot of people that have worked multiple jobs on the side to be able to even do this, but they're so incredibly talented
Mm-hmm.
and wonderful at what they do. And they create these amazing, whether it's the props that they create or the sets they design or build. And when they're not doing that, they're working as a waiter or whatever quick work that they can do that allows them to go back into the film industry. Because it's another thing, you have to be open to be able to do it. You have to be able to take those jobs when they're available, not take, say, a full-time job that you can't leave.
For all its faults, the film industry, the creative industry, there is something though that why people are in this position where it is so volatile when it comes to an actual job market is because I think when you have those magic moments and you create something that goes out into the world, it's just priceless. And
Yeah.
once you've done it, no matter what form, you're like, I don't care how long I have to wait, I'm going to go back.
Yep. And that's what it is. When you create something and you get to watch it for the first time, you realize this is a whole different world and I'm seeing this world and I feel like I'm somewhere else.
Yeah.
And, it makes you want to keep creating these things and you want other people to experience them as well. And so you want to create building these worlds so that people can experience the same feelings that you get to feel when you're
Hmm.
in these worlds that you've created. One of the biggest compliments I ever got was on a film that I directed that's currently finally finishing up. We finished up post sound, finishing up the last of the effects. Tag Hole and the Monster Kid, based on a comic book. And one of the first days of filming, the comic book writer that I based the screenplay off of, and I worked with him to create, he came onto set. He was there for 5 minutes, not even. He literally walked in, and I was in the middle of filming a scene, and I turned around when we finished, and he was gone. I was like, where'd Kirk go? Where'd he go? And so I started texting him like, where'd you go? He goes, I had to leave. It was too real. My characters were walking off the page around me. It was freaking me out. And I'm like, that is the biggest compliment I can feel, because he felt that the people that were there, the set, everything was so real. He felt like he was literally walking in his comic book pages and he had to leave. And if I'm creating that for the writer of the original comic book,
Yeah.
imagine how the people who view this world are going to feel.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those, like, you know,
You get to
makes
bring
you,
people's visions to life. I mean, I've been in a
yeah.
couple table reads where it's just the writer, when they get to hear that they're writing out loud for the first time, I'm sure it never gets old, I'm sure.
Honestly, hearing my writing out loud isn't what excites me. It's more of seeing everybody else's reaction to it.
Yeah.
It's seeing their excitement or their comedic reactions, or honestly, sometimes seeing their anger
Mm.
when I'm trying to, when I'm working on something like a documentary on Patch Adams. We just finished up everything pretty much. We're still finishing up a few things, but it's been amazing to watch, and especially to see Patch himself watch it and be like, I want to fund that hospital. Why isn't it built yet?
Yeah.
So I'm like, this did exactly what I wanted it to do. It brought a call to arms. It made people feel something, wondering, like, what can I do? Why isn't this done? It made people want to go out and do something.
Mhm.
The film that really got me to decide, okay, I'm not going to work in politics. I'm not going to try and teach politics. I'm not going to study it so much. What made me want to go and actually do films was I was taking a media and politics class at the University of New Orleans in grad school. And they had us watch this film called Burma VJ, Filming from Inside a Closed Country. And don't get me wrong, I grew up watching hundreds of movies and watched tons of documentaries, but I had just spent a, a couple of years studying. I went to law school, a couple of years studying politics, and all of a sudden I'm watching this movie and watching an entire regime change because of what these filmmakers did.
Mhm.
It's literally about a group of filmmakers who are average citizens, just like you and me, that took a camera and filmed the atrocities that were happening in that country when they weren't allowed to have cameras, where they could be killed or tortured for having a camera, and took the footage in secret and smuggled the footage out and got it to the UN and to different news stations outside the country. And it caused other countries to finally step in and put an end to what was going on. And it led to a complete regime change. The entire government changed.
Yeah.
The old president that was previously literally had been locked up by the new regime was let out and was reinstated. It's amazing what people caught on camera and how they caught it and got it out, and how people saw it created this call to action that people reacted in such a way that it changed the entire government. Now imagine what you could do with a film that makes you feel like you have to change your entire culture, your entire way of thinking, even on an individual scale.
Yeah, documentaries are so important because I think at this point people have just, with the noise of the news, and I feel the same way about journalism. I mean, they want you to be unbiased, but at the same time, they also want you to disturb people as well. They're like,
Yeah.
if it's not bad news, it's not going to sell.
But why does it have to be bad news?
I know. I think there's so much noise when it comes to just people's opinions and news articles and all these things. But when you watch a documentary, it is one of the few mediums that is nonfiction that can get to people across the board. No matter if you have, strong opinions about things. The beautiful thing about a documentary is, I think, is one of the few mediums that can touch people no matter where they stand on an issue.
Well, it gives them a glimpse into an experience
Hmm.
or a life that they wouldn't otherwise see. And it gives them a very visual experience of, this is what people are actually seeing and experience, in a way that you can't just say, no, that's not real. Well, no,
Right.
it's right in front of you. There's no CGI here. This is what it is. And when it's shown from a point of view that shows it from what the people there are experiencing, or what that culture is, it gives you a glimpse into that mind, and it shows you how, honestly, how alike we really are,
Yeah.
and how a lot of your beliefs and cultures and actions are very similar and almost the same, and sometimes the same as another one.
Hmm.
And how do you understand that until you've seen it?
It's the closest we can get to walking in someone else's shoes, basically.
Right. I mean, and that's one of the things that I love about fantasy. It gives everybody a chance to walk in somebody else's shoes without having those preconceived notions, because
Yeah.
you kind of forget when you get into fantasy world about anything else other than what's going on in the fantasy world, because it's not your world. You're not making preconceived notions based on what you know about, say, the right side or the left side of the political spectrum. No, it's Kingdom of Talos versus the Kingdom of Darn, whatever it is. It's something else. You can forget for a little bit and you can just experience what those particular actions, the characters are, what the story is through that point of view. And so you start to realize, well, they're trying to tell you that at the end of the day, everybody's the same and there are certain motivations we all have. And the hope is that we can just be a little bit more human.
You know what I find fascinating about being in the film industry and going to a movie set or being at a studio, seeing a green screen, seeing behind the curtain. But when I watch a movie, I still believe it. It's crazy. Like we know
Yeah.
all the things that make all those things happen. We know it's not real snow. I'm still able to let go of all that stuff and be swept up in the magic.
So then that's really good storytelling.
Hmm.
If you are paying attention to how they made the movie,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not a good story. I have watched movies that have, though they, 28 Days Later, one of my favorite example movies because of how they filmed it. They filmed it on regular SD cams. They weren't film cameras. They filmed this giant movie on some very basic cameras, but it gave a very specific visual and it gave people that mindset of feeling like you're watching a found footage video and their ability to tell the story from the perspective of those characters and the way that they told the story, allowing us to see a glimpse of following along with those different characters is what gets people to just, you can't stop watching.
Hmm.
It has nothing to do with how amazing the movie is. And so at the end of the day, it really depends on, are your characters good?
Yeah.
Do you fall in love with them? Do you care what they're doing? Are they going on an adventure that you feel drawn to, that excites you, that angers you, that makes you feel something, that makes you feel like you're experiencing another life?
Hmm. I know we're so stuck on names, and I understand the business side of it. It is a certain guarantee, and you know what you're getting to a certain extent. But if you have a great team, you have great actors, and you have a great story, it doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that kills me because some of the best actors that I've ever worked with, and that I've worked with many times since then, it was their first time on screen.
Hmm.
And they just killed it. And I did a pilot, and my lead for it had come into audition. And her first audition didn't go so well, but I gave her direction, and she took my direction so far and did such a phenomenal job. I'm like, that's it. That's my lead. She talked to me later. Actually, her mom talked to me later and she said she didn't think she had gotten it because right before she had come in, some really big famous YouTuber had come in and auditioned for the same role. And she goes, I'm not going to get it. This famous YouTuber that's got, hundreds of followers is going to get it. But that's not how I cast. I cast based on, do I connect with you? Do you create that character that we can all connect with? Because that's the story we're following.
Yeah.
She carried the whole movie. It was phenomenal. She did such a great job. And I would have never had the chance to work with her if I would have just decided, oh, I'm only getting people, you know, have been in a bunch of other movies or, know what they're doing or have a social following or whatever it is. You lose the people that are really good at their craft.
Yeah.
They just don't really advertise themselves very well.
True actor director, which a lot of the times directors feel such a pressure from producers or whoever's involved to just act outside of what they want. And it truly should be the director's decision at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
there's all these people involved, of course. It's nice to know that there are directors out there that are truly just looking at the actor and what they can do with that character.
Well, I want to create the best story I can. I can't do that if I'm picking people based on who they know or what potentially they might bring me. I want to pick the people that are best at their art form. They're going to be able to create the best all around art project because we're all working together with a bunch of really brilliant artists. Of course, it's going to be phenomenal. When you have a bunch of brilliant artists together, it's going to turn out amazing.
Yeah.
because they're all really passionate, whether or not they're known or anything else. Dog Day Afternoon, one of the classic movies, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. The way that they cast that movie was that they cast actors that you wouldn't expect for those roles.
Mm-hmm.
The casting director is phenomenal. She is an amazing casting director. I really, really appreciate her work because she's always cast things based on what is going to make the most interesting character. Not who's the biggest name or whatever. Who's going to be the interesting character? Who's going to take this character to a level that you don't expect? Who's not going to be a stereotype? So when you're expecting a big guy and this little tiny guy comes out, it changes your whole perspective. And when he fulfills those roles, you're like, your mind gets blown. And you have like this, ooh, you get those goosebumps and you feel like you're in a totally different story. It's not something you've seen before. And that's the whole thing. It's taking those adventures and taking those risks and just going for it. I mean, that's what art is. At the end of the day, you're taking a risk and sharing your innermost personal being with everybody else and saying, here it is.
Mm-hmm. I know. I always feel it's so funny when you see breakdowns and literally you're not submitted on something because it's a blonde and you have brown hair. I'm like, A, you can dye your hair.
Yeah.
B, it's so funny how some of those things is what they use to whittle it down. But at the end of the day, there have been some epic roles that have been played by people who, yeah, are like 5'4" and they wanted someone who was 6 feet tall.
Yep. Perfect example, Tag Call of the Monster Kid. We literally rewrote part of the script, and Kurt came on with me. He was the original comic writer. He actually worked it. He's like, we got to rewrite part of the script. I totally want this guy, but we got to rewrite part of the script. We're going to do this because we hired an actor who was black, and he's playing a sci-fi writer in the 1970s, 1960s in the South, who's friends with a white writer, which, if you know anything about that time period, it was a very complicated, very bad time period for that, for basically even people being friends, and people were horrible to each other, but we had to account for that in the script if we wanted to hire him and cast him, and he was the best one for the role, though. We couldn't stop watching him, so that's what we did. Like, we added a few lines in the script to explain,
Yeah.
to actually include that because he was the best one for the role, and I wanted people to have that experience with him as that character, and he did a phenomenal job. So sometimes you got to rewrite something if you want to have a better story.
Definitely. The last question I have for you is what is an off script moment that stands out? And what I mean by off script is something that maybe seemed like it was going horribly wrong, but ended up making the day, or just something really unexpected that happened when you were on set that you're just like, I did not see that coming.
Okay, so there are always unexpected things that happen on set 24/7. That's probably one of the things that I love about it. There's always something. Okay, there's a movie I directed, and our lead, we had a stunt coordinator and everything. We had a safety thing set up, and I had broken down the shots specifically so that we would just imply things. And we're supposed to show a character falling down the stairs because he's supposed to basically accidentally fall down the stairs and kill himself. He's the bad guy. This is how he accidentally dies. He gets scared by the ghost of his past when it confronts him, and he falls downstairs. And so I had this whole thing planned down. I had all my storyboards set up, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do it this way. We're going to get this angle. So I'm going to see him falling backwards. He's just going to lean his head back, and he's going to fall out of frame. And then I'm going to see him lift his foot up and kind of stick it out right here, just in a tight close up. And then I'm just going to kind of see him kind of like pull down the last couple of stairs. And then I get to set, and my stunt coordinator starts with our actor because our actor decides he wants to go ahead and do this. And I said, okay, well, we're just doing these couple little things. This is not an actual, this is not supposed to be an actual stunt. You're not supposed to fall the stairs. Lo and behold, he surprises the hell, it scares the hell out of me. Gets to the top, he goes, you're rolling, right? You got everything? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you're rolling, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm rolling. Everything's set. We're rolling. Okay. Falls down the stairs. I'm like, oh my God. He stops. I run over. He's like, are you okay? He goes, did you get it? I'm like, what do you mean, did I get it? Are you okay? He goes, oh, that was on purpose. That means you got it. or that it looked good. Did you get it? I'm like, yeah, I got it. Don't scare me like that again. He's like, let's do it one more time. I'm like, no, no. He goes, I want to do it one more time. We're doing it one more time. So he gets up. I'm like, okay, we're good. We're doing it one more time. And we did it. Man, that scared the ever living daylights out of me. But honestly, I just had a really good stunt coordinator that taught him how to fall as a stunt person. He decided he really wanted to do the stunt. And so scared me to death, but did a phenomenal job. I've had actors kind of go a little bit over the top a few times. It turned out amazing. I appreciate they did. I was never, a lot of times I'm not expecting it. And I like, we were doing, I had a scene I was directing, and they're also ironically they're from Ted Cole. I just had such a great casting crew for that. And we filmed it during the pandemic. We didn't really have any funding, but we managed to get the COVID tests donated so we could at least film and be safe. And everyone basically traded their time for a percentage off the back end. And I put in everything I had and used every resource I have to get everything we could get. And so many people just put so much into it. And our actors were phenomenal, and everything was just, our whole crew was fantastic. And one of our actors on it, they were doing this little scene where it's a bunch of teenagers sitting around a table, and they're supposed to be having this little conversation back and forth because they had a little disagreement about something that happened a little bit earlier in the movie, because one of them, got a VHS tape and he sees himself dying and he thinks that he's pulling a prank on him. And so they're supposed to be sitting there playing D&D and having this kind of angry conversation with each other that's, supposed to slowly escalate, and he kind of storms out. Well, we'd practice a lot. It was like we did rehearse this a ton of times. We go to film, and then all of a sudden, as he's getting angry and angry and just a few lines of the scene, he stands up and lunges across the table and grabs the gun. I'm like, this was not part of the script. What? But we kept filming, and oh my God, that became it. And that was like, I think that was the wide shot we did. And that's how we did the rest of it. And he's like, I just felt it in that moment. I did it. And I'm like, yeah, we all felt it. We all felt it.
Yeah.
And it was just so real and phenomenal. Yeah, there have been a lot of moments like that. I worked on a pilot, which hasn't been picked up yet. I have a couple of those, but filmed the pilot. And my producer on it was, at the time, she was the head of the SAG here, and she's a phenomenal actress. And I had worked with her as an actress on another project, and I asked her to help me produce this, and I wanted her to play a role. And she goes, I don't know if I can do that and produce. I'm like, I'm going to make sure you can. I want you to be in this. I want you to play this role, because I can't imagine anyone else playing this role. Because when I wrote it, I was thinking of a character like her, and then I all of a sudden met her, and her personality was even more real just as her. And so I had her, you know, kind of expand on a few things, but she had this really emotional scene with the character, Diana, who was playing like her, kind of like her mentor in the movie, and kind of like a bigger sister or a mom. She basically pulls her and goes, you can't do this. And they have this whole little conversation about how this is affecting her. And Diana had gone through this with her younger sister. Her younger sister committed suicide. And so she saw, even in this film, she saw this girl as like her younger sister, and she talked to her. I'm like, use that. Because she started crying. I'm like, don't worry about that. I want you to use that. Use what you're feeling right now. Use how you feel. What would you tell your sister? Using these lines, how would you tell it to her?
Mm.
How would you tell her? And I, everyone started crying on set, because it was so touching and so just emotionally open
Yeah.
in a way that no one expected. And it's those moments that really are what make a film.
Hmm.
It's what really allow us to connect, because we're connecting with those actors' real experiences or real feelings that they're putting into their character, or even imagined feelings, but feelings that they're opening themselves up and they're sharing that with the world with that.
Yeah. What a powerful story to end on. Well, where can the listeners keep up with you, Laura? Where do you post or keep? people updated the most?
So I'm really terrible about it. I apologize ahead of time. I don't post very often, but I share posts that other people post about me, and I do share it on Facebook. Occasionally people share things on Instagram for me, but I at least try to share what other people share on Facebook. So I've gotten better about that. Still bad about it, but I've gotten better.
Social media is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, but most of the times it's kind of a curse because
Yeah.
everyone expects it now. And so I
Yeah.
feel bad about it,
It's a
and
lot
it's a
of pressure.
problem, but but the good news is that I work with wonderful people that they're super talented in social media and stuff like that. And so they do it, and I'm happy to share it. And I have a wonderful team that I work with the Key Productions, and they keep our website updated and let people know on the website and on the social media for the Key, what's going on with everyone in the company. So
Very cool.
I have some good people that help me out.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for your time. You are such an amazing woman, mentor, peer, and we're so lucky to have you on the podcast. And thank you for sharing so many beautiful things. Everyone's going to love this
Thank you very
episode. So
much.
thank you so much. Bye.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Off Script. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for more unfiltered conversations with the creatives shaping the Southeast film market. Until next time, keep creating, keep pushing, and keep telling your story your way.